Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to step away from the noise, step away from the distractions, and look at the wisdom that's been sitting in front of us for generations. Proverbs 5, it's not just a passage, it's a guide, a mirror, a warning, and a promise, all wrapped into one. When people hear pleasing your husband, they often shrink it down to shallow cliches. But the truth found in Proverbs 5 runs deeper. This is not about performance, this is about purpose, partnership, and protection. First, Proverbs 5 starts with a warning. A father speaking to his son about the dangers of the forbidden woman. That warning applies both ways. It's a call for both husband and wife to guard their hearts, to resist temptation, and to protect the sanctity of their covenant. Second, it points us to satisfaction at home. It says, "Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice in the wife of your youth." The joy and intimacy you build within your marriage is sacred. The responsibility isn't just on one person. Both husband and wife are called to invest, to cherish, to water the garden they've planted together. Third, Proverbs 5 teaches us about exclusivity. True pleasure is not found in wandering eyes or restless hearts. It's found in loyalty. It's found in knowing that the one you wake up to every morning has chosen you again and again. Fourth, it demands intentionality. Love isn't on autopilot. Pleasing your husband means learning his heart, growing together, understanding his needs, not just physical but emotional, spiritual, and mental. That's real intimacy. That's real strength. Fifth, it's about honor. When a woman honors her husband and he honors her, they create a fortress that no outside force can easily penetrate. Honor isn't submission out of weakness, it's strength that recognizes the value of unity. Finally, Proverbs 5 is about legacy. When a marriage thrives, it echoes into the lives of children, families, communities. The discipline, love, and devotion you practice today becomes the foundation for generations. Now hear me, this isn't about perfection. You will stumble, you will struggle, but if you stay rooted in the wisdom of God, you will not fall apart. Pleasing your husband is not about losing yourself. It's about finding the strength God has placed in you to build a partnership that reflects His love, His grace, and His design. Guard your covenant. Marriage is not a casual agreement. It is a sacred covenant established before God. When two people come together in marriage, they enter into a bond that is meant to reflect God's unwavering love, His commitment, and His design for unity. Guarding your covenant is about protecting the sacredness of that bond. It is an intentional daily commitment to preserve what God has joined together, understanding that there are forces, both seen and unseen, that seek to divide and destroy. Every marriage will face moments of vulnerability. Temptation doesn't always arrive with flashing lights and warning signs. Sometimes it comes quietly in the form of dissatisfaction, unmet expectations, or emotional distance. In Proverbs 5, we see a powerful warning against the allure of the forbidden woman, the seductive voice that whispers false promises of excitement, of something new, of something better. But make no mistake, these are traps designed to weaken the foundation of what was built with love, sacrifice, and devotion. Guarding your covenant begins in the heart. It requires a heart that is committed not just to the person you married, but to the God who ordained your union. When your heart is anchored in God's truth, you become sensitive to the subtle ways the enemy tries to slip in. Emotional affairs, secret conversations, lingering looks, discontentment, they often start small, but left unchecked, they can grow into cracks that fracture even the strongest marriage. That is why vigilance is not an option, it is a necessity. Communication is one of the greatest weapons in guarding your covenant. When you and your spouse regularly open up to one another, sharing your fears, your joys, your frustrations, and your dreams, you close the doors that the enemy tries to pry open. Transparency builds trust, and trust fortifies your union. Do not let pride or fear prevent you from having the hard conversations. They are the very conversations that can save your marriage. Another key aspect of guarding your covenant is accountability. Surround yourself with people who respect and honor the institution of marriage. Avoid friendships and environments that encourage behavior contrary to your vows. When you align yourself with those who celebrate marriage, you create a support system that helps you remain strong during moments of weakness. The enemy loves isolation because isolated people are easier to deceive. Stay connected to those who will pray for you, speak truth to you, and remind you of the value of your covenant. Guarding your covenant also means guarding your mind. The things you watch, the books you read, the conversations you entertain, they all feed your mind and influence your perception of marriage. If you consume content that glamorizes infidelity, diminishes the importance of commitment, or mocks the sacredness of marriage, you allow seeds of corruption to be planted. Be intentional about feeding your mind with wisdom, truth, and encouragement that strengthens your resolve to honor your vows. Physical intimacy plays a vital role in safeguarding your marriage as well. Proverbs 5 speaks of rejoicing in the spouse of your youth. Intimacy is not just a physical act, but an emotional and spiritual connection that reinforces the bond between husband and wife. Make time for one another. Prioritize your relationship, even in the busyness of life. Small gestures of affection, words of affirmation, and intentional time together keep the fire burning and the connection strong. Lastly, remember that guarding your covenant is not something you do in your own strength. You need God's grace, His wisdom, and His guidance every single day. Pray together, seek God's face together. When He remains at the center of your marriage, He becomes the shield that protects you from harm. Your covenant is precious. It is worth fighting for, worth protecting, and worth preserving. Guard it with everything you have, and you will see it flourish into the beautiful partnership God intended it to be. Cultivate joy at home. Joy is not something that simply appears in a home. It doesn't arrive like a package on your doorstep. Joy must be planted, nurtured, and cultivated with deliberate care. In marriage, joy is the atmosphere that breathes life into your home. It is the warmth that welcomes you at the end of a long day. It's the laughter that fills the kitchen, the comfort in the silence, and the peace that guards your hearts even in the storms of life. Cultivating joy at home starts with gratitude. When you choose to focus on the blessings rather than the shortcomings, you shift the atmosphere. Every marriage will encounter challenges. There will be days when frustrations rise, when expectations are not met, when fatigue sets in. But in those moments, gratitude acts as a shield. Instead of dwelling on what your spouse didn't do, you choose to be thankful for who they are and what they bring to your life. Gratitude fuels contentment, and contentment opens the door for joy to take root. Words carry tremendous power in the home. The words you speak to your husband can either build him up or tear him down. Encouraging words create a safe space where both of you can flourish. Speak life into your husband. Acknowledge his efforts. Celebrate his victories, no matter how small they may seem. A man who feels appreciated and respected carries a confidence that overflows into every corner of the home. And when both husband and wife feel seen, heard, and valued, joy naturally blossoms. Laughter is one of the most underrated ingredients in a joyful home. Too often the seriousness of life can weigh heavily on a marriage. Bills, work, parenting, responsibilities, they all have their place, but they cannot be allowed to steal the joy from your home. Make room for fun. Share inside jokes, dance in the kitchen, watch movies that make you both laugh until you cry. These moments of lightheartedness are like sunshine to the soul, chasing away the shadows of stress and worry. Cultivating joy also means creating an atmosphere of peace. Conflict will arise, that's part of any relationship, but it's how you handle conflict that determines whether joy is preserved or lost. Seek resolution, not victory. Be quick to listen and slow to speak. Apologize when necessary. Extend grace freely. A home filled with forgiveness becomes a haven where joy can thrive, even in the face of disagreements. Spiritual intimacy is another cornerstone of joy in marriage. Praying together, studying God's Word together, and attending church as a family invite God's presence into your home. His presence brings peace that surpasses understanding and joy that transcends circumstances. When a husband and wife are united not only physically and emotionally, but spiritually, their bond is fortified by a joy that cannot be easily shaken. Quality time is essential in cultivating joy. In the busyness of life, it's easy to drift apart if intentional time is not carved out. Prioritize date nights. Take walks together. Share meals without distractions. These moments of connection serve as reminders of your love and commitment to one another. They are the bricks that build a home rich in joy and togetherness. Creating joy at home also involves creating a sanctuary, a place that reflects love, peace, and belonging. A tidy, welcoming environment where both husband and wife feel comfortable and cared for contributes to the overall mood of the home. Simple touches, a clean space, a warm meal, a note left on the counter, all communicate love and care, feeding the joy within the walls of your home. Ultimately, cultivating joy at home is an ongoing, intentional process. It requires both husband and wife to sow seeds of love, gratitude, patience, and laughter. And when those seeds are tended with care, they produce a harvest of joy that fills the home with warmth, strength, and unshakable unity. The joy you build today becomes the legacy your children will carry tomorrow. a living testimony of God's goodness reflected in your marriage. Practice loyalty. Loyalty is the heartbeat of a lasting marriage. It is not simply a matter of staying physically faithful. It is a daily choice to give your whole heart, mind, and soul to your spouse and your covenant. In a world that often celebrates self-interest and instant gratification, loyalty stands as a rare and precious treasure. It is the steady hand that holds the marriage firm when life's storms rage, when temptations knock, and when emotions waver. Practicing loyalty begins long before temptation ever shows up at your door. It starts with the decision to guard your thoughts and intentions. Loyalty lives in the quiet moments when you choose to turn your eyes away from what does not belong to you. It lives in the conversations you avoid, the relationships you keep healthy boundaries around, and the small compromises you refuse to make. Temptation often begins in subtle ways: a friendly text, a lingering glance, a private conversation that should have been public. True loyalty sees these early warning signs and responds with wisdom, not curiosity. Loyalty also requires emotional discipline. In marriage, there will be seasons of frustration, disappointment, or feeling misunderstood. Those are the moments when discontentment tries to plant seeds of doubt. Loyalty rejects the lie that the grass is greener elsewhere. Instead, it turns toward the spouse with grace, patience, and open communication, working through the issues rather than seeking comfort in outside sources. Emotional loyalty means your spouse knows they are your safe place, your first call, your confidant, and your priority. Being loyal means refusing to compare your spouse to others. The world constantly bombards us with images, stories, and unrealistic portrayals of perfection. But loyalty fixes its eyes on the person God has given you, embracing their strengths and loving them through their weaknesses. Comparison is a thief that robs marriages of joy and satisfaction. Loyalty, however, fosters contentment by focusing on gratitude and seeing the unique beauty in your spouse. Trust is built through consistent loyalty. Every promise kept, every word honored, every sacrifice made builds a foundation of trust that strengthens the marriage. When your spouse knows that your word is solid, that your commitment is unwavering, and that your love is steadfast, a deep sense of safety develops. This safety allows vulnerability to flourish, and where vulnerability grows, intimacy follows. Loyalty also requires protecting your spouse's reputation. Speak well of them in public and in private. Do not expose their weaknesses for the entertainment of others. Stand as their defender, their encourager, and their biggest supporter. Loyalty means your spouse never has to wonder if you will have their back, even when they are not present. When a husband and wife protect each other's dignity, they create a bond that is not easily broken. Another critical aspect of loyalty is being fully present. In today's world of endless distractions, it is easy to be physically present but emotionally distant. Loyalty shows up in the way you listen, the way you prioritize quality time, and the way you make your spouse feel valued. Your attention, your presence, and your intentionality are powerful ways to demonstrate that your heart belongs fully to them. Lastly, loyalty is not sustained by willpower alone. It is fueled by God's strength and grace. The human heart is prone to wander, but the Spirit of God anchors us in truth and righteousness. Daily prayer, studying the Word, and inviting God into the center of your marriage fortifies your commitment. With God at the foundation, loyalty becomes not just an act of the will, but a reflection of His faithful love in your relationship. Loyalty is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It may not always be seen by the world, but it is deeply felt by your spouse. It is the quiet, steady rhythm that says, I am here, I am for you, I am with you, today, tomorrow, and always. In that loyalty, marriages are strengthened, hearts are healed, and love is made unbreakable. Be intentional. Love doesn't grow by accident. A thriving marriage is not the result of chance, but of daily choices rooted in purpose. Being intentional means you make a conscious decision every single day to invest in your relationship, to nurture your spouse, and to build a home that reflects the depth of your commitment. Without intentionality, even the strongest marriages can slowly drift apart, not because of some great failure, but because of neglect, busyness, and the distractions of life. Intentional love pays attention. It listens not just to words, but to tone, to body language, to unspoken needs. It notices when your spouse is carrying a heavy burden or when they simply need a kind word of encouragement. Small gestures, a touch on the shoulder, a simple "I'm proud of you," or a quiet act of service become the glue that keeps hearts close even when life is demanding. These little choices speak volumes, saying, I see you, I value you, I choose you. Time is one of the most valuable gifts you can offer in marriage. Intentional couples prioritize quality time together even when schedules are full. They carve out moments to sit, to talk, to laugh, and to dream together. It's easy to assume that your spouse will always be there, but love requires you to make room for each other, consistently, deliberately. The busyness of work, children, and responsibilities can easily consume all your energy, but intentionality demands that you never allow your spouse to feel like they come second to everything else. Being intentional means pursuing continual growth. Marriage is not a destination but a journey. As individuals, you will both evolve, face new challenges, and encounter different seasons of life. Intentional couples grow together by learning each other's changing needs and desires. They don't assume that what worked 5 years ago still works today. Instead, they communicate, adapt, and seek to understand one another at every stage. This kind of active engagement keeps the relationship alive, dynamic, and deeply connected. Intentional love also includes creating shared goals and dreams. Couples who plan together, pray together, and pursue common visions for their future stay united. Whether it's financial goals, parenting strategies, spiritual growth, or personal development, having shared purpose strengthens the bond and gives both spouses something meaningful to build together. Without a shared direction, couples can drift into living parallel lives instead of walking hand in hand. Intentionality shows up in the way conflicts are handled too. Disagreements are inevitable, but intentional couples approach conflict with humility and grace. They don't let anger simmer or allow unresolved issues to fester. They address problems with honesty, seek understanding, and work toward solutions that honor both partners. They are quick to apologize, quick to forgive, and always mindful that their bond is more important than being right. Encouragement is another vital part of intentional love. Speak life into your spouse, call out their strengths, remind them of their worth. In a world that often tears people down, your spouse should always find in you a source of unwavering support. Words of affirmation become like seeds planted in the heart, growing into confidence, peace, and joy. Intentional couples also protect their marriage from outside influences. They are careful about who they allow to speak into their relationship. They guard against toxic influences, whether through friendships, media, or environments that could pull them away from the values they've built together. They establish healthy boundaries and seek counsel from those who honor the sanctity of marriage. At the center of all intentionality is God. A marriage that keeps God first is one that draws strength, wisdom, and direction from an unshakable foundation. Prayer invites divine guidance. Worship brings unity. Scripture offers the blueprint for love that endures. With God leading the way, intentional choices bear fruit that lasts a lifetime. Intentional love requires effort, but it yields peace, joy, and intimacy that no circumstance can shake. It's not about grand gestures, it's about consistent, thoughtful acts of love that say, I will keep choosing you every single day. Honor each other. Honor is the quiet power that holds a marriage together when emotions run high, when life gets busy, and when challenges arise. To honor each other means to place great value on your spouse, not just in the good times, but in every season of life. Honor speaks to the soul of your marriage, reminding both husband and wife that they are cherished, respected, and worthy of love no matter the circumstances. Honor begins with how you see your spouse. When you look at your husband, you are not just seeing a man, you are seeing God's chosen one for you. You are seeing someone uniquely designed, equipped, and purposed for the role he holds in your life. This perspective changes everything. You no longer focus on flaws or shortcomings. Instead, you focus on who he is in Christ, who he is becoming, and the sacred role he plays in your union. Words are one of the clearest ways we show honor. The words you speak to and about your spouse either build or break, strengthen or weaken. When you speak life, when you affirm, when you encourage, you plant seeds that grow into security and confidence. When you criticize, belittle, or compare, you chip away at the very foundation of your marriage. Honor chooses words carefully. It seeks to uplift even in correction. It refuses to use words as weapons, understanding that once spoken, they leave marks that may never fully fade. Public honor is just as important as private honor. How you speak about your spouse when they are not present is a direct reflection of the honor you carry in your heart. Do not expose weaknesses, mock failures, or air frustrations for others to see. Protect your spouse's dignity. Guard their reputation. Stand as their defender, not only in their presence, but especially in their absence. A marriage that operates with this level of respect becomes a safe haven, a place of trust and peace. Honor is also shown through service. Love serves. Honor sees the needs of your spouse and chooses to meet them with joy, not obligation. Whether it's the small daily tasks or the bigger sacrifices, Serving one another is an act of humility that strengthens the bond. When both husband and wife serve one another with willing hearts, neither carries the weight alone. The home becomes a partnership, not a battlefield. Listening is another act of honor. When you listen, truly listen, you show that your spouse's voice matters, that their opinions, feelings, and concerns are important to you. It's easy to hear with your ears but dismiss with your heart. Honor leans in. Honor seeks to understand. Honor values what is being shared, even when it's difficult to hear. In these moments, your spouse feels seen, heard, and validated. Honor also requires choosing forgiveness. In every marriage, mistakes will be made, words will be misspoken, and hearts may be wounded. Honor does not keep score or hold grudges. It releases offenses, knowing that grace is the glue that holds imperfect people together. Forgiveness is not a sign of weakness. It is a reflection of strength, humility, and commitment to the covenant. Boundaries also reflect honor. Protect your marriage by setting clear lines that safeguard intimacy, trust, and emotional connection. Don't allow external influences, whether people, habits, or entertainment, to bring division. Honor knows that your marriage is sacred, and anything that threatens its health is not welcome. At the center of honor is a heart that fears God. When you honor your spouse, you honor the one who brought you together. You recognize that your marriage is not only a contract between two people, but a covenant before God. His standard becomes your guide. His love becomes your example, and His grace becomes your strength. Honor is not a one-time act. It is a lifestyle. It is choosing, day after day, to esteem your spouse as God's precious gift. When honor fills a marriage, it creates an unbreakable bond, a love that endures, a partnership that thrives, and a home that reflects the very heart of God. Think generationally. Marriage was never designed to impact just two people. Every choice you make inside your marriage ripples far beyond the present moment. It echoes into the lives of your children, your grandchildren, and even those who watch from a distance. Thinking generationally means living with a vision bigger than today. It means recognizing that your love story, your commitment, and your faithfulness are planting seeds that will bear fruit long after you're gone. Too often, people approach marriage with a short-term mindset, focusing only on immediate happiness or personal satisfaction. But marriage was created to be a legacy, a living example of covenant love, sacrifice, forgiveness, and grace that can inspire and guide the generations that follow. When you think generationally, you understand that your marriage is a model your children will likely follow. The way you love, the way you resolve conflict, the way you honor one another, all of it becomes a blueprint for them. Children learn what love looks like by watching their parents. They absorb not only the words you say, but the tone you use, the patience you show, the sacrifices you make, and the unity you display. When they see parents who pray together, who serve one another selflessly, who forgive quickly, and who stand strong in the face of trials, they learn how to build healthy, God-centered marriages of their own. You are teaching them how to love by how you love each other. Thinking generationally also means guarding against the destructive patterns of the past. Many marriages today are weighed down by generational curses, cycles of divorce, abuse, neglect, or dysfunction that have been passed down. But you have the power by God's grace to break those cycles. Your marriage can be the turning point where unhealthy patterns stop and a new legacy of healing, stability, and godly love begins. You are not only fighting for your own marriage, but for the freedom and blessing of those who will come after you. Your financial decisions also speak to your generational mindset. Couples who build wisely, live within their means, and steward their resources faithfully are not only securing their own future, but setting up the next generation for success. Teaching children financial responsibility, generosity, and integrity prepares them to manage God's blessings well. Proverbs says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." That inheritance is not just financial, it's spiritual, emotional, and relational as well. Thinking generationally means leaving a spiritual legacy. The most valuable gift you can give your descendants is the example of a marriage rooted in God. When children grow up in a home where prayer is normal, where the Word of God is honored, and where church is not an obligation but a joy, they carry that faith with them. They learn that God is not distant but present in the everyday moments of life and marriage. Every sacrifice you make to strengthen your marriage today pays dividends for generations. The discipline it takes to guard your words, the humility required to apologize, the patience to work through hard seasons, all of it builds a foundation stronger than stone. Your grandchildren may one day enjoy the stability and peace you fought to establish, even if they never see the full extent of your struggles. You are building something that will outlast you. When you think generationally, you live with purpose. You pray not just for your marriage, but for the marriages of your children and their children. You set standards not based on culture, but on God's unchanging truth. You love with a vision far greater than momentary pleasure. You understand that your marriage is part of a bigger story, one God Himself is writing, for His glory and for the blessing of countless lives to come.